Hey, sixth grade. All right, so lesson 14 today, and we're going to be looking at distances on a coordinate plane. So we're still looking at our grids that have our X and Y axes on them, and still going to be using those coordinate points and such, but this time specifically looking at distances. So I'm going to come down to where 14.2 starts, which is actually kind of splits across the page here. So signs of numbers on the coordinates and writing the coordinates of each number is kind of our task here. I'm actually going to, what'd I do? There we go. I will edit this down. You'll notice that there is this M open up thing here. That is a link that's going to have a digital tool, so you can give that a try, and it's going to let you kind of drag and drop points on a grid. I'm going to continue to do it on the paper version just since that's what you've got in front of you as well. So, all right, we're writing the coordinates of each of these points, or in my case, typing them. So point A, which is located right here, first of all, just identifying those would be that this one is 4 to the right, so it's a positive 4, and then it is 3 upward, so it's going to be a positive 3. So I'm going to use parentheses. 4 was my first, 3 was my vertical or second coordinate, so this would be 4, 3, both positives. B is also over to the right 4, but this time it's down below the line, and this time it's down 3. So just as far from that axis line, but down instead of up, so it's going to be negative. So this one is 4, negative. Whoopsie, not a K. Negative 3. C is also in this fourth quadrant here. This time it's over 3 and down 5. So over 3, down, so negative 5 there. D here in the third quadrant, horizontal first, so I'm going backward to the left, negative 4, and then downward 3. So this one's got a negative on both, negative 4 and then negative 3. I'm seeing lots of 3s and 4s coming up here, so it's really important that we're putting the coordinates in order, so making sure that the horizontal number, the number of how far side to side it is always coming first in that ordered pair. The sequence of those numbers really matters, and then also being really careful about whether it's a positive or a negative makes a big difference here. Last one, I'm going backward or to the left 5 and then upward 3. So my last one's going to be at negative 5, positive 3, which would be up here in that second quadrant. So then we've got some questions for each pair of points. So how are the coordinates the same? How are they different? How far away from the y-axis, to the left or right of it? How far away from the x-axis, above or below it? So each set here, we have to answer all these things about. Kind of scroll back and forth. So A and B. I'm going to copy these so that I have to do less scrolling. Sure, I'll still have to do some, but a little bit less at least. And if I compare these, all right, we are asked how are these coordinates the same? Well, both have 4 as their first, in other words, their x coordinate, that first number as their x, coordinate. And when we looked at those points, they were directly above and below each other, and we noticed that they were both the same gap or distance away from that dark line, the axis line there. So we could also say, and they are equidistant. They are the same distance. So equidistant. I hope I'm spelling that right. If not, I guess hopefully the spell check will catch me. Great at math, not good at spelling. Not my thing. Equidistant. Sure. From and that horizontal one is the x, so from the x-axis, there we go. And I need to pause for a moment. Then we're asked how far away from the y-axis, in other words, to the left or right of the dark line in the middle. So I am going to just kind of reference up here. So how far? So this is that y-axis, the vertical. How far away from it are they? Well, it's over 1, 2, 3, and 4, which just so happens to also be that first number that we had. So it's 4 away, and that first number, that x coordinate, is going to answer that question for us. So, and since both of the points are right above each other, they're actually, both points are 4 units away from the y-axis line. And, oh, it says to the right or left, so not only are they 4 units away, but they are 4 units to the right of, rather than just saying 4 units from it, because they want to know directionally what to do with it there. And then we're asked to do the same kind of thing, but this time using that x-axis. So using the dark line that runs horizontal through the middle of your coordinate plane there. So if we look, this was where we said they were equidistant. They were both the same distance from that dark line. One was above, one was below, and this one was up 1, 2, and 3. This one was below 1, 2, and 3, which makes sense because if we look at those ordered pairs there, they both have 3 as the second point, one positive above, one negative below, and that brings us back to that idea of absolute value. They're in 2 different directions, but they're both the same distance. And absolute value is that distance from 0. So hopefully that'll start to make a little bit more sense if it's been kind of vague so far. So both points are 3 units away from the x-axis. Point A is above, while point B is below the axis line. So we're going to kind of go through and do that exact same thing, but for these other pairs as well. So we're just kind of setting up and looking for relationships between 2 different points on the coordinate plane there. And all right, so if this time we're looking at B and D, if I copy and paste those two, so B and D are the ones that we're looking at now, where we had 4, -3 and -4, -3. So automatically I'm seeing some relationships just in the numbers that we wrote down as their coordinates here. There we go. And all right, so again, our questions are these same 3 questions from up above. How are the coordinates the same? Well, in this case, both points are located at with -3 as their second coordinate. In other words, their y coordinate. How are they different from one another? Well, their first coordinate, their x coordinate, we've got a +4 and a -4. So whether we're going to the right or to the left is going to be different there. So they are on different sides of the y, the vertical, the y-axis line. So, and I'll show you looking at that up above where we had, so B and D saying that they are on opposite sides there, one to the right and one to the left. And that's really going to kind of answer these other questions for us as well. How far are they from those lines, and are they right or left, as well as how far away are they from the x-axis, and are they above or below it? So in this case, both of these points are going to be below. They're below the x, below that horizontal line, while they are on different sides of that y-axis here. We've got D to the left and B to the right. And those are the things that they're asking us to pay attention to. Distance and direction with these.
Where's Carson?
All right. I'm going to go ahead and come down here to question number 3, where it talks about point F that has the same coordinates as point C. I'm going to look right here. Let me grab my highlighter tool so that you can make sure you know what I'm pointing to. So I'm looking at question number 3 here, and point F has the same coordinates as point C, except its y coordinate has the opposite sign. All right, sorry for the pause there. And so point F has the same coordinates as point C, except its y coordinate has the opposite sign. And then we're asked to do some things with this. So, all right, I need to go back to where I can actually type. And let's see, am I going to be able to type now? Yeah, perfect. So we need to point plot F on the coordinate plane and label it with its coordinates. Plot it and label it. It has the same coordinates as C, but Y has the opposite sign. So all right, let's look at C. Point C here, 3, -5. So it's going to be 3, -5 as well, except that, so all right, point F is going to be at 3, and its y, its second coordinate, is going to have the opposite sign. So instead of being a negative, it's going to be a positive. So that's going to get plotted at 3, 5. So if I go over 3 and up 5, that's going to be right there at the intersection of those two lines. And I'm going to label that point F. Now, to avoid having to switch back and forth between tools, because it always glitches for me a little bit, I'm going to go see what my next step is with this. So we know where to plot it, and we know what its coordinates are going to be. Now we're asked, how far away are F and C from the x-axis line? All right, how far are they? So point F, I guess I better draw it. Point F, we said 3, 5, so that was going to be right, see there. Come on. Well, it should be right where they're intersecting. It doesn't want to quite go where I'm telling it to. And that would be point F there. Oh, geez Louise. And how far from the x-axis? Well, the x-axis is this horizontal one here. So this is going to be up 5 away from that line. And this one's going to be down 5 away from that line. So they're both 5 units from that axis line. They have an absolute value of 5. They have the same distance, just 2 different directions. We're also asked then, what is the distance between the 2 points? All right, well, those points are one above each other. They're right on top of each other there. And so if I look at the distance, well, we said that from there to there, it was 5. Well, from here to the axis, it was also 5. So if it's 5 units from the top to the middle and 5 units from the middle to the bottom, if we're talking about the distance from this point to this point, then our distance would be a total of 10 units away from each other. Whenever you have points that are directly in line with each other, whether they are vertically one above each other or horizontally like B and D are, where they're directly across from each other, it's going to be fairly simple to identify the distance between them because, for one thing, we can just count them, but we can also look at some distance things when we look at the coordinates or the ordered pairs that we've got with those. So we can count these up and notice that it's 10 points here by going 5 and 5, or even just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. But I can also notice that from -5 to 0 has a distance of 5. No, come on. It did it again.